Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about leadership. We all know what leadership is, and we also have examples of very good leaders around us. But today we are going to look at what are some of those qualities needed if you want to be a good leader. First of all, leadership involves motivating, encouraging, and leading a group, organization, or a team to achieve the set objectives or goals that you have. Sometimes organizations expect teams to achieve something in a particular period of time, and if you have a good leader, it certainly helps. Of course, team spirit is all about coming together and working together as a team, but a good team can be really good only if it has a good leader. There are umpteen number of examples of teams becoming successful because not just they had this team spirit, but also they had a very good leader. So today we talk about leadership. We'll also look into what are some of those qualities needed if you want to be a good leader. And I also want to tell you one thing today, that leadership is something which is infectious. What happens is people around you are always observing you, and if you have the personality or attitude of a good leader, they always want to follow you. They want to pick up some of those things that you have, some of those qualities that you have, and they try to emulate those qualities. Before we go ahead, we also need to understand the need for good leaders. We may say that why do I even want to be a leader? I'm fine in the space that I am in. But it's very important to understand in the present scenario, in the present world that we live in, that we don't have enough good leaders. So what is the need for leaders? Leadership is one quality that is always in demand. Organizations are always looking for good leaders, and there are not too many of them around. And this is one good enough reason for us to maybe try to find out what are those qualities which are needed to become a good leader. Yeah, so till now we have been looking at what is leadership, who is a good leader, what is the need to even learn about what it takes to become a good leader. Now, for the next few minutes, we are going to look at some very important qualities that are needed for someone to become a good leader or maybe a great leader. The first quality that we need to possess as a good leader is clear communication. Now, this is one quality that is a must, and if you do not have clear communication, there could be instances where the team doesn't seem to be so effective as it should be, and that could be a big flaw, a big danger when it comes to achieving your objectives or goals. So what is clear communication? It's very important for the leader to know each and every member of the team. When I say knowing each and every member, I know that there is a private space that each member wants to maintain, and you need to respect that. But obviously, when I say clear communication, it's not just about you talking to them, you spending time with them, trying to know them. It's also about the art of observation. You need to observe all these people, and I've not used the word monitor, I've said observe. So you spend time trying to understand these people, and within a short period of time, a good leader understands each and every member of the team. And once that happens, you know the strengths and weaknesses of each member of the team. Once you understand the strengths and the weaknesses of the team members, then it becomes that much more easy, because then you know what A is good at and what B is not good at, and then accordingly when it comes to giving them tasks, when it comes to working together as a team, you can assign responsibilities to people according to their strengths, and this ultimately plays a very big role when it comes to achieving team objectives. So one thing is absolutely necessary. If you want to be a good leader, if you are a good leader already, you should understand that clear communication tops that list of qualities that one needs to possess if he wants to take the team forward, wants to achieve those objectives. There's a very clear example, if I may quote, in the Indian context. There are two big, great cricket captains whom we have witnessed in the past few years. One who presently doesn't play for the Indian team, but who's held in very high regard when it comes to leadership, that is MS Dhoni. And we also have Virat Kohli, who has a very different style of leadership, but he's equally effective as a good leader. So that's one example that I can give of good leaders whom we've observed around us in the Indian context. But in a world scenario, sports is one good example where leadership matters a lot. You take it any sport, let it be any sport. I think leadership plays a big role. Just like leadership is very important in businesses or in politics, in administration and all that. So number one quality that we need to possess as a good leader. If you don't have it already, work on it. And I'm sure you'll be able to become a clear communicator, because clear communication is the number one quality that is expected of a good leader. The second quality after clear communication, which I would like to focus on, is drive. If you want to put it in simple words, drive refers to enthusiasm, and leaders need to be enthusiastic. They lead a team of 10, 20, 100,000. But then if the leader is not enthusiastic, if he does not have the drive to succeed and to make the team succeed, he's already lost the battle. So the second quality that leaders should possess is drive, is enthusiasm. The ability to inspire a team, the ability to be enthusiastic himself or herself, and then this particular quality obviously, passes on to the other members of the team. There are umpteen instances, there are umpteen examples of people who are well educated, who got so many degrees when it comes to management or whichever field of expertise they belong to, but they have failed miserably, and the organization obviously has failed because the leader couldn't do what he was expected to do. And according to research, people who have poor enthusiasm, who do not have the drive, they have failed miserably. So the second quality that leaders should have is drive. And how do you get this drive? Where does it come from? It's not available out there. So every day, the leader, wherever he works or whatever he does, he should start the day on a positive note. There could be a lot of things happening around him, and there could be a lot of negativity, and a lot of things have failed. But if he goes to his team with a negative frame of mind, and if he does not have the enthusiasm, which obviously is infectious, in him, obviously what happens there is the team is not going to move ahead and achieve the bigger goals that they have set for themselves. So drive is of paramount importance. Again, you need to be a leader who knows where he's going, who knows where his team needs to go, who needs to think far ahead of the present times. And although things may not be actually good around you, there may be a lot of negative things happening to you, to your team, to your organization, you need to have the enthusiasm or the drive to lead the team to achieve bigger goals. And that's one thing that I would want to share here. So after clear communication, the second quality that a team leader, a leader of an organization needs to have is drive. And if a leader has this particular quality, I'm sure that the team or the organization also benefits because of this. The third quality that a good leader should possess is delegation. Now, what do you mean by delegation? Often what happens is a leader, because he's been doing a lot of things right over a period of time, obviously that's one reason why he's achieved what he's achieved. He tends to do a lot more work than what he should be doing. Now, you have a team of 10 members, for example, and already by now, if you're a good leader, you identify what their strengths are, what some of them have as a weakness. So, you should have this ability to divide the tasks among those 10 members. And a good leader does that. Now, when I say delegating of tasks, it doesn't mean that overburdening your team, giving some people a lot of tasks because they seem to be good at it. That could become a bane, in fact. What you need to understand is when you have a group of 10 members, there could be times where only 5 of them would come to your rescue, so you make use of them. But it doesn't mean that the other 5 members are going to be idle without being given a task. It's all about how you delegate work. It's all about how you identify these strengths and weaknesses that obviously I've discussed. It can happen only through clear communication, but then you need to delegate these tasks to your team members. When that is done effectively, obviously the entire team benefits. Each one knows his or her role. Each one realizes that there's a target and I need to do this task effectively, and everything falls into place. One major, obstacle or disadvantage that I can see here is when leaders want to get things done and they want to get things done on time, so they just pick 5 out of the 10 people in the team and keep loading them with a lot of tasks. What happens then, they themselves are demotivated because they realize that there are 5 other members who are sitting idle, they're not doing much, they seem to be having a good time, which is not true. So what a good leader should do is he needs to identify what strengths and weaknesses are and delegate tasks according to what each one's capability would permit them to work on, and then the results are going to be totally different. So the third quality which a good leader should possess is the skill or the ability to delegate tasks. Delegation is very, very important, and once you achieve this, your team tends to perform much, much better than what it used to do in the earlier times. The fourth quality, and a very, very important quality that a leader should possess, is optimism. Now, optimism is something about which I have spoken earlier when I was talking about drive, enthusiasm, they go hand in hand. But optimism is positivity. Now, the team members, the organization is obviously looking for a positive person at the helm. If the leader himself is negative, he doesn't believe in going the extra mile, he doesn't believe in achieving great things. If, as you say, he's someone who is somewhere in between sorts of, so then it could be a big problem. We are looking, I actually am talking about someone who's mediocre. So mediocrity doesn't have a place when it comes to leadership. A leader always aims high, he thinks big, and that can happen only when he sort of leads by example. So a good leader should be an optimist. There are going to be negative times, as I said earlier. There are going to be times when things don't go right, when the market is down, or when it seems that you're about to sink as a team, as an organization. That's when he needs to display optimism. I know it's easier said than done, but there is no substitute for optimism. A good leader needs to be optimistic. He needs to find a way to remain optimistic when the chips are down, when everything seems to be going haywire. If he can maintain his composure, if he can remain positive, actually it does a lot of good for the team. Because the team doesn't or should not sense that something's wrong with the team leader. They should not think that the organization is going down, we are low on profits, we don't seem to find a way out of the present situation. All that can happen only when the leader remains positive and optimistic. Now, this is something that he needs to pass on to the team members. So that automatically happens when a leader is positive, the team remains positive. So he needs to find opportunities to pep them up, to encourage them, to say that if we all work together, we are going to achieve that target. It may not happen immediately, but there are going to be times when the team does extremely well. We know of teams in sport which were nowhere, but because they had a great leader, they had the right dynamics, they had positive coaches, and they tend to do well. And there are numerous examples of teams that have done that. It's no different in the corporate world, it's no different in any sector, whichever sector you work in. The team does well when the leader is optimistic. So the fourth quality that a leader should possess is optimism. And again, it's a very, very important quality that leaders should possess. The fifth quality that a good leader should possess is dependability. Good leaders are dependable. Good leaders are trustworthy. And if there is one quality, a very, very important quality that the team is looking for in a good leader, that is dependability. When we talk about dependability, we are also talking about balance. We are talking about someone who doesn't waver, someone who is more or less stable. There are no ups and downs when it comes to his moods. Although it's a very difficult quality in the present times, it's a very important quality. Dependability means that the team can just walk up to you and express themselves and talk about the good and bad. They can come to you, they can be frank and candid about what they expect from you. They can also be in a position, they are also in a position to share a lot of things with you. And if a leader is not dependable, all these things are not going to happen. Now, in one way, a dependable leader gets the best out of the team. And if dependability is not your forte, if it is something that you're weak on, I think as a good leader, you should work on this quality. It doesn't come easy, it's not going to happen overnight, but then this is one quality that your team members are looking for, so it becomes all the more important for you to work on ways in which you can become dependable. A very simple way of looking at it is try not to be perturbed by a lot of things that are happening around you. At least don't express it to your team. Try to tell your team members all the time through actions that you're there for them. That's a very, very important quality. If you can convince your team members that you're there for them in both their good and bad, in their success and failure, I think that's a big, big battle you won. And those are qualities of a good leader. So one quality about which I'm stressing on here is on dependability. You need to be dependable, and when you are dependable, you get a dependable team. So that it works both ways. You are dependable, and your team also comes together, and you can depend on that team. So it's a two-way thing. So a very important quality that you need to work on as a leader is dependability. Earn their trust. Demand their respect, or rather maybe command their respect, not demand their respect, and then you have a world-beating team maybe. So as a good leader, work on dependability, try to find ways in which you can improve on this quality if you don't already have it. Dependability is a must-have for a good leader. Teams are always looking for inspiration, and they're trying to look for inspiration from somebody around them, and the best person from whom they can be inspired is the leader himself. Many times leaders should lead from the front. They need to take the hit, they need to take the blame, they need to be willing to accept that the team has not done well, and one important reason for that is because the leader was not as good as he should have been. Now that is one quality that many leaders do not have. They pass the buck, they pass the blame, they say the team was not good, that's why we have failed. But how many leaders are there in the present times who can say, yes, we have failed, yes, we have not been able to achieve whatever we wanted to achieve, we will do it the next time. At the moment, it's not, maybe they don't even say that, they don't talk about team failure, they say the team has failed because I didn't lead the team the way I should have led. So that's a big source of inspiration. Although you may say, that's negativity creeping in, it's not necessarily negativity, because what it does is the team members are spared from all the criticism, and the leader is willing to take it. And when they realize that the leader is willing to take that criticism, they obviously is some sort of inspiration that kicks in, and then they tend to do much more than what they normally would do. They would go that extra mile to be able to achieve goals for the team. So a good leader should be an inspiration for the other team members. Again, I would like to talk a lot about sports, because I watch a lot of sports, and we know how much of an inspiration some of these leaders are. And whether you take cricket, whether you take football or any other sport, even maybe golf, there are some people out there who are an inspiration. And in team sports, it's the leader who walks in front, who takes not just the bouquets but also the brickbats. So that's very, very important. A good leader, a great leader is someone who inspires. And the team members are always looking for inspiration when they understand that they don't need to go anywhere else for the inspiration. The inspiration is coming from the leader himself, because he's self-motivated, or he finds ways of motivating himself. And as I said earlier so many times, that some of these positive qualities that you possess as a leader are infectious, and they actually move they are passed on to the other members of the team. So it's very, very important that the leader stays inspired and is the cause of inspiration for the other team members. As a leader, it's very, very important, as I told you earlier, that you need to be very expressive, you need to be a good communicator. When you talk about communication always is a two-way process. You would have learned about or heard about interpersonal communication, which happens between one member, many members, or one-on-one. So there's always two parties involved, and when there are two parties involved, communication process is incomplete without feedback. From time to time, the team members could go through their ups and downs. There could be other factors because of which they may not be as productive as they are supposed to be, and the leader should actually pitch in such times. It's very, very important that the leader communicates with the team members and gets feedback, passes on both the good and the not so good qualities of the team members. For example, if you are heading an organization, for example, you are heading a department and you have about 10 members in your team, and you know that there are these 2 members who are low on motivation and they need to be motivated, you actually need to talk to them and try to find out why they are not as productive as they normally would be. So it's very important that you pass on some of your some tricks of the trade to these members. You identify, you find out why they are not doing that well. Sometimes you have some inputs that you need to give them. Don't hide these things from your team members, saying that what would that person think about, what would this team member think about. Tell them their good qualities. It's always good to start by telling about the good qualities, but you also need to tell them the areas of improvement. So feedback is a very important mechanism in team when you're working in a team, but it's a very, very important quality that the leader should possess if he wants the team to excel, if he wants all the team members to work in unison for the overall growth and for achieving the objectives that you decided to achieve. It's very, very important that you need to talk to your team members, give them feedback, and also I need to mention here, you should be willing to take feedback. Very few leaders do that, although on paper it looks good, but how many leaders actually ask their team members to rate them? It's very, very rare that such things happen. It's very, very important to know from your team members the areas of improvement in your attitude, personality, or leadership. And at the same time, you also need to give them feedback of what are the good and not so good areas in their work or otherwise. And this will go a long way in helping your team to excel and achieve the desired objectives. The eighth quality that a good leader should possess is responsibility. A good leader should be responsible. A good leader should understand what is expected of him. He should also be very, very clear about what he expects from the team members. A good leader has to be responsible. When you talk about responsibility, although it's a oft repeated word, term, I think we need to decipher what responsibility is all about. Responsibility is about doing the desired or the expected tasks to the best of your potential, to not shirk when things are not going right. It's very, very important to display this quality of responsibility to your team members. This is something that again is infectious. It passes on from you to the other members of the team. It could maybe propel some of the other members to take up leadership positions in the future. They realize and they identify that leadership is, after all, not such a difficult proposition. So a very, very important quality a good leader should possess is responsibility. He should fulfill the tasks that he sets himself to do, because that's very, very important. Once he accomplishes the tasks that he has planned, he obviously can tell the other members to do so. If he is not very good when it comes to fulfilling his responsibilities, it's very difficult for him to expect his team members to fulfill some of the responsibilities that they have accepted. So a good leader should be a responsible leader. A good leader should follow rules. A good leader should have deadlines, should stick to all of those deadlines, and then once that happens, he obviously is in a very, very good position to expect his team to do so. A good leader needs to be responsible, and there is no second option for him in this case. And I'm sure that once he is a responsible leader, the team also becomes a responsible team. The ninth quality that I am talking about now is dedication. Just a little while ago I was speaking about the importance of being a responsible leader. Now I'm going to talk about dedication, and here there's nothing synonymous between dedication and responsibility. Dedication, basically, when we talk about dedication, we are looking at someone who fulfills all his tasks in the best possible manner, gives more than 100%, and that's something that inspires the team. So as a great leader, you ought to be dedicated. There are going to be times when you need to spend more time than the other team members. You need to sit back at home, maybe strategize and think of how best you can get this team to perform to its potential. There are going to be times when it seems to be a never-ending job for you and you almost feel like quitting. But then those are the times that test you, those are the testing times. But those are the times you should understand that someone is very closely observing you, and it's not your boss who is observing you, it's actually your team which observes you. And they realize that this particular leader is giving more than 100%. And when they realize that sometimes, it's a thankless job for this leader, he continues to do what he's doing because he wants the team to excel, he wants the organization to excel. There's so much of dedication, there's so much of sincerity, and maybe you can include that word integrity in the way he works, he or she works, and that's when when the team decides to join with the leader in the truest sense, and that's when the team can achieve the desired goals. So just like responsibility is a very, very important quality, the ability to be totally dedicated to the tasks that you have as a leader, that you have with the team which works along with you, when you work to your potential and achieve some of those goals with the help of dedication, that's when your team also gets along with you, and then you achieve the combined objectives which you had planned to achieve over a period of time. The last quality about which I'll be talking about is flexibility. When someone is flexible, he's not rigid. a good leader is not supposed to be rigid. He needs to be flexible. He needs to understand the team members. He needs to understand that all days are not the same. There could be times when nothing goes right. There could be times when everything seems to be going fine. So he needs to understand these ups and downs. He needs to understand his team, and he should also understand that only when the team works together and gives more than 100% is that's when the entire organization benefits. So this is one quality that very few leaders have. Only those great leaders have this quality of flexibility. When I talk about flexibility, you should understand that you need to be willing to think out of the box sometimes. You need to be willing to experiment. You need to be willing to sometimes use your weakest link for a very different purpose. So many times it's about surprises, it's about experimentation, but then all this you're doing not just for the sake of doing it, you're doing it because you want to innovate, maybe you want to give someone a chance, but more importantly, you're doing it for a desired objective. Good leaders are flexible. Good leaders think out of the box. Good leaders surprise you with their moves. Good leaders are unpredictable. But at the same time, all these qualities about which I mentioned are all, I'm looking at the positive side of unpredictability. I'm looking at positive side of some of these qualities, because that's when you can come out with great success. So if you want teams to do well, just a little while ago I was talking about, I've been talking about so many of these qualities. I'm sure you can have a look at those qualities out there, but then when you're looking at some of these qualities, and when you identify that you don't seem to be that good at some of them, what you need to do is you need to work on them. So we've looked right from 1 to 10, we've looked at 10 different qualities, and you need to understand that we are all not perfect. We are all learning as we proceed. Some of you might have become leaders very early. Some of you would have taken up leadership positions pretty late in life, but it doesn't matter. These are things that you need to remember all the time. Work on some of these weak areas, and I'm sure that if you are flexible, it makes a big difference sometimes. You don't need to be flexible all the time, but there are going to be times where this quality is going to come to your rescue. So that's the last quality about which I have mentioned, and I'm sure that these 10 qualities are qualities which are going to make you great leaders in the future. Well, we have looked at what is leadership, we've looked at the need to acquire some of these qualities. We've also looked very specifically at some 10 leadership qualities that we need to possess, some skills we need to possess. And after this, I would like to encourage all of you listening to me to hone some of these skills if you do not possess them already. If you have these skills as a package, there is no looking back. There are a lot of opportunities out there for good leaders. The world is beckoning you to, it's inviting you. There are so many areas where the companies or the organizations are found wanting because they don't have a good leader. Who knows, you could be one of them. But I would urge you, I would encourage you to spend some time looking at those qualities out there. Have a pen and paper and write down some of those strengths of yours and identify those weaknesses, and then specifically work on them over a period of time. I'm not saying that it's going to happen in a jiffy. It's going to take time, but then when you work on some of these weaknesses of yours, when you work on your strengths, I'm sure what you're doing is you are actually preparing yourself for a leadership position in the future. So I wish you all the best even as you embark on this leadership journey. I believe that some of these things that we have discussed, that I've told you in the past few minutes, is going to be of help. And I also believe that because the world requires good leaders, some of you who have listened to me are already on that journey, and you are going to very soon be in a position to achieve great things in life. So all the best for everyone listening to me. I hope and believe that this video had something for all of you, and I believe that in the future some of you will reap the rewards of trying to work on some of these weaknesses and improving on some of these strengths. So have a great day, have a good time, and have a wonderful future, and become the leader that you are in the coming times.